Einen schönen guten Abend. Welcome, everybody, to our catch up webinar uh, on the topic of reaching on desk workers with corporate podcast. I hope everybody can hear me and see me. I'm testing out the chat as well. If there's anybody in here, please feel free to send something in the chat to see if we're all in here, and then we're ready to go. Sorry for the little delay. Um, we changed a little bit of the setup because we had some trouble last time with the software and everything. So we got that upgraded. So I hope everything is working now. But it took a little bit longer to get everything started and set up. And sorry for that. But yeah, we're ready to go now. And feel free to write something in the chat. I'm going to test it out. Hi everyone. Um, There you go. Cool. So yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna share with you a little presentation um, to get you on board as well. So there we go. And we're gonna put it in here. Yes. And so let's get started. So, like I said, on 1st of December, we had the webinar set up. Sorry again for the people that joined now, where we weren't able to make it happen. We had technical issues. We got it fixed now. We're quite happy that we have a much better setup now. But this is the topic we're going to talk about today. I'm Max. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hype 1000. We're a corporate audio company specializing in corporate podcasting, and we help companies from the creation, the development of podcasts, to also the software behind it to make it very easy and super simple to create podcasts and to share podcasts. And we're going to show a few examples of how a few of our customers are doing it. And yeah, I'm quite excited about that. So let's get started. And yes, so one really interesting fact, and this is one of the reasons why we started this webinar, is the reason that 80% of our global workforce are non-desk workers. So yeah, I usually work at a desk. I have access to multiple screens, my smartphone, and my work is based around the office, and that's for most people that are in communications. That's for most people that are in HR. But then we often forget that a huge amount of employees are non-desk workers, so they don't have regular access to a screen. They don't. Then they might even be in a different geographical location from the head office, or the main work facilities, because they work in production and logistics, in restaurants, in retail stores. And one of the things that we've seen in the last few years is the fact that due to the fact, and it's one part is just the structure of being disconnected because you're further away geographically, or you don't have the chance to attend every town hall meeting because you live across country, especially for our U.S. customers. A bigger geographical distance makes it difficult, and that results in lower engagement rates. And lower engagement in an organization. That is also proven that it reduces productivity, and also leads to higher turnover rates in employees. And then, especially if we look at the situation in the global market for employees, turnover rates and low productivity and people leaving the company can be extremely costly, because not just onboarding new employees is really, really expensive and difficult, um, but it's also finding new employees, because the market, and if you look at countries like Germany, it's becoming more and more difficult to hire new employees, and that's not just qualified employees. It's overall the amount of people to hire them and get them onboarded. So what are those non-desk employees really missing? That are often they look for that work remotely, and that can be also sales teams that you have that help you generate revenue in your organization, um, that work mobile first, because they are in software development teams, or they work on site, and that can be like production facilities, logistics centers, retail locations, as I mentioned before. So they have, by design, have very limited access to communication, or traditional communication channels like email, video as well, town halls, and one very interesting conversation that I had the beginning of the year is with a big chemical company, in a global company operating heavily out of Germany, and they realized out of their 30,000 employees, nearly 13,000 of them did not even have an email address because they work in those production facilities. And so they realized that the only way that they communicate with those employees is either through the leadership team, and then you already have that difficulty of diluted information across different levels of hierarchy, lack of information in general, or they use the blackboards to pin something on, and then they were very confused about not reaching employees. And then there, if the next company over offers a better environment for those employees, they might be going really fast. So what is really important to those non-desk workers, to those non-desk employees in your organization, and that is that accessibility of content, anytime, anywhere. So that can be while commuting to your location of work, or if we think about sales teams, that can be while commuting from customer A to customer B. Um, that for a lot of people, when it comes to work-life balance, that can be, I just dropped off the kids at kindergarten, so I'll take that time while driving to work to already get the first information in, because then I can maybe skip a few emails that I don't have to read because I already heard them. Or if you have an audio newsletter with the most relevant information, I can, skip a few emails, or, go through that huge number of emails that I get every day. That can be one way. The second part is it is very authentic. It is very engaging. It's very relevant and relatable, because the voice is such an important piece of communication tool, because it can uh, give you that tonality, and deliver additional information like emotion with the actual information that you're sending. And that is very important, and especially for people that don't have don't participate in those daily eye-to-eye meetings, those what do you call them, those cooler talks, water cooler talks, or in Germany you say Flurfunk. So the hallway chatter. If you don't participate in that, and you might be disconnected from other parts of the organization, you want to build that emotional, that personal connection, and then again, audio can be that tool to really help you. And podcasts, especially, that have the power of being very authentic and personal, and yeah, delivering it with a personal note. And especially if you look at the younger generation nowadays, Gen Z, for them, it's really important that they identify not just with the organization, but with the people working in that organization, and then connecting with them on a personal level. They want to know, so what values does my CEO have? Do I share the same values with her or him, that work in the organization? What are their political stance? What are their viewpoints on very basic things that you sometimes see in your or that you have in your day-to-day life? So that also becomes more important, for especially the young generation, Gen Z. And by having this very authentic and personable way of communicating that really helps to really get people engaged, and especially and so it can also be very interesting if you think further into the recruiting process and delivering messages outside of your organization. But why are we talking about this? What gives us the right to talk about this? We are the leading corporate podcasting company globally with 10 plus years of experience, produced more than 1,000 podcast episodes. And then, like I said, we work in developing formats, so the creative process, helping you to find the right strategy, helping you to design the right formats for your different audiences. We do also help with production, so we're a content production company, and then we also built the software around it, so we're a software company as well to help you communicate really easy and have the right tools, from virtual recording studios, text-based editing, distribution within your social internet platform, wherever you want to deliver your content. So that's what we build. We operate globally. I'm based in Germany, but then I have colleagues that work in New York. We have colleagues in Madrid. So we're a globally operating company. And it's not just that we're saying this, but we have trusted partners and brands that work with us globally. A few of them, to just give you a little marketing overview of why this is relevant of what we're saying and why people like to work with us, and who that is. So the necessary marketing slide that you have to put in every now and then as a good salesperson. But let's get back to the real content. And it's not just that we're saying this or this is a great idea. So these numbers really back what we've been doing for nearly 4 years now in that corporate space. Is people or your employees really love audio. Acceptance rates are going up. And especially, like I said, Gen Z, more than half of them are listening to podcasts while they're at work. And, if you don't have a podcast, they're probably going to listen to a podcast that is not related to your business, that is not related to your organization, but is for, private and personal consumption. And you want to make sure that you can, sneak your content in as well to really help with that. And another great thing about this is it's not just if we think about those non-desk employees, it's not just staying connected with the organization, but it's also training them on new products, on new procedures, on security or safety matters, on DEI content. So there's or ESG, whatever you want to do. So because a lot of people, and that's 74%, listen to podcasts to learn new things, and so it's also a very great training tool. And I don't know of you how many use podcasts to really be educated and learn something via podcast, and use that as an educational tool, or as we often say, edutainment to it, because you have that personal, authentic note to it. And we seen those results across our customers as well. We see 5 times higher engagement rates than the traditional classic newsletters that you see. Um, Extremely high listen through rates. So from the moment you start until you kind of skip, we have a 93% listen through rate across the content from our customers, which are great numbers. And then if you think about that, on average, a podcast is between 20 to 30 minutes long. That really helps you, that really, is spending time, even if it's asynchronously. You're spending time with your employees, you're sharing information, and they spending time with you as well. And we know video is a big thing at the moment, and everybody's looking for video content. And, we offer a video podcast as well. But if you think about it, getting a good setup, for an audio only format, this is all you need: a microphone, a decent microphone, and with the new latest audio enhancement technologies, probably in 9 to 12 months, The only thing you need is a phone to still record studio quality content for a podcast. But then if you think about doing video, then you need a camera, you need lighting. So it already becomes more complex. It also adds layers to the way you communicate. So you have to make sure that your movements, your gestures, and everything match that as well. So it becomes more difficult the way you dress, and so you can take out with an audio only format. You take out a lot of things that you don't need. And again, thinking about those non-desk employees, um, they their job might require them to have their eyes on the machines that they're operating, or they are working, filling up shelves in their retail store. Still having their headphones in is great, but then they have their hands free and their eyes free to move around and consume passively. So audio is a great passive consumption tool. You don't have to do anything for it. You just plug in your headphones, and then you just participate with video or text. You have to actively consume that content, and that is one of the major differences as well. And now I just want to quickly check if there's any questions in the chat at the moment. So I'm just gonna quickly do that and see if there are any questions. Hang on right here. So no questions at the moment. So I'm gonna continue with the presentation and give you now the different use cases. If there's any questions or anything, please feel free to use the chat, and we're open for questions afterwards as well. So yeah, let's get into the use cases. So one of our customers is inside a pharmaceutical company in the US. And so they are using podcasts to update their sales teams. Again, huge country, distributed sales force across the countries, divided into different teams. So they use the podcast to really inform them on the latest business updates. They invite sales reps onto the podcast to share best practices with their teams. And then they train them on new indications and new products, because in the pharmaceutical space, it's really relevant, because um, the, the, the people that they sell to is pharmacists, is doctors. So they need to make sure that they can have conversations on eye level with them. So they have to be trained constantly and know about the things that they talk about, because their customers are generally experts in the field. So you always continuously need to stay on top of that. So again, great results that they delivered using the podcast for that. Another example is CVS Health in the US. 300,000 employees, nearly 200,000 working in retail locations, in stores across the country in the US. And so for them, it was important to really reach their hard to reach retail teams. And due to the changes they went through over the last few years, and the cultural change, because they acquired a few competitors. So they are now trying to establish a new joint company culture, and to make that culture travel fast through the organization, and then making that travel to again, in this case, frontline workers is a great example, because they're the first face to the customer. You might be connected to the brand on the website, but the first face you're going to see is not the people from marketing or finance that are sitting in HQ. The first people you are going to talk to are the people in stores, and so you want them to really live the values of the company, that really breathe and understand what this company is all about, to really build that relation with the customer. And so they're using podcasts to do that, to get them really on board and interested. So those are two examples. If you're interested in learning a little bit more, or hear other examples, very happy to share that as well with you. Cool. And so on to the next part. And because after the exams, you want to know, what can I do? How do I launch successfully? And the first thing, and that is the most important thing that we talk about with our customers, is know your audience, understand their needs and preferences. This is super, super important, and this is where you should spend most of your time on to really clearly understand what your who your audience is, and then after you've understood who you want to talk to, um, that you set clear goals, because we're past the point where it's just like, hey, I want to have my own podcast and I just get started. Um, those times are over. If you don't have the right content and don't know really what you want to do and what you're trying to achieve, and it doesn't have to be those KPIs like 100,000 downloads or 50,000 downloads, or there's few KPIs where you can really track engagement, because especially if you think about internal formats that we're talking about here, it's less about impressions and reach. It's a lot more about engagement. And I'm going to show you a few examples of how you can track engagement with that content. So that is really important to have a benchmark to really test it out, because you might have 30, 40 minute you start with 20, 30 episodes, and then you realize, hey, we're not moving anywhere from this point, but we had set this goal, and if you're reaching that goal, then you can either change the format, or you might realize, hey, this might not be the right format. So that's why it's also really important to have those clear uh, goals set for you. And then and then the third point is create valuable content. And well, it sounds very easy, but more than too many times we have heard, like, I have this community to communicate, and I have this to communicate, and they need to know this, and they need to know this. And I'm gonna switch on the light again. And that is often the wrong approach. Try to change the perspective from what do I want to send, what do I have to send to those audiences, to what do they really want to hear, what is really important to them, what topics are interesting to them. And by doing that, changing the perspective on that, you get you get much better results, because then you understand what do they really want to hear from you. Like, what do they want to hear from the CEO? What's going on in the strategy? Do they want to have more learning content? So really engage with your audience, with your workforce, and figure out what do they want to listen to, and then build your content around that. And of course, every now and then there's things you have to report, and there's things that they have to know. But if you bake it in within a construct of things that they want to hear, it becomes much easier to digest, and it becomes much easier for you to distribute that information that might be not, every employee's first choice of content. And then the fourth part, keep it simple. Use, don't overthink it. Get a microphone, get started, test a little bit on, after you answer the first few questions, test around. Don't overthink it too much. You know, you the first few episodes, once you look back after recording, I don't know, the first 30 or 40 episodes, you're gonna look back and be like, oh, the first 2 or 3 episodes were bad. I wasn't really in my flow. I didn't really, I haven't figured out what my voice is going to sound like. It's you might cringe hearing it. So that is completely normal. Um, but it's always better to get started and then improve than being afraid to get started at all. And then the last point is also really important. We always talk about podcasts as being a marathon, not a sprint. So try to be consistent. That is very key. Publish regularly. We've seen too many cases where people got excited, got started, said like, "Oh, I have an idea," and then they kind of had the misconception of I have an idea for an episode, but not necessarily for a podcast. So then they do episode number 2, and then they realize, oh, it's becoming a bit tougher now to find content. And then on episode 3, it already died off because over 50% of podcasts never make it past episode 2. And you don't want to be part of those 50% that never make it past episode 2. So be consistent, post regularly. It's also great for your audience if they know, hey, every Tuesday or every 2 weeks I get this content, or in March I get season 1, in October I get season 2. So we're people are animals of habits, so we love having our habits and regular schedules. So try to cater to that. Your audience is gonna appreciate it, and they're gonna love you for that. So how do you really track engagement? Like I mentioned before, and it can be one thing that we showed is the listen through rate. Not just how many people listen, but people often feel like, hey, we had like so many clicks on the podcast. Yeah, but did they actually listen, or what happened? So, or did they just, start first 30 seconds and then they skip? So that is really important. So how long did they stick with your message? Then you can build in feedback or surveys to understand how that information stuck with them. So or you do a town hall, or you go out to your colleagues, or send out an email survey asking them about things, if they listen, what they liked about it, and get specific as well. And do that constantly with the short little surveys. The modern social internet platform give you all the possibilities to do that. And then with that feedback and the service that you do, you can continuously improve. And by having the right analytics tools in place, you can see if your adjustments to the content have an impact on listen through rates, on the number of your audience. And that brings me to the third part. It can be repeat listens, especially when it comes to training content. Have people come back and listen to it multiple times. So that is a sign that people think that content is valuable, and so they go back and want to listen to it again. It's the same with their people going back once a year to having to listen or watch Friends again or something like that. So that can be something. And the other part is audience growth as well. So not just saying like, hey, maybe I haven't reached my target audience level that I wanted to achieve after 6 months, but is that audience continuously growing by a decent amount of people within my audience? Then it's great. And then it shows you're still picking up momentum. You still haven't reached the top, or but if you see maybe after a year or a year and a half, for example, you see numbers declining, you see your audience shrinking again, maybe that is time to say like, hey, maybe we've done enough. Maybe the topic has been discussed extensively. So it might be time to make a clean cut. Say, hey, we reached you all. There are no more questions left. So we're sunsetting this format, but stay tuned. We're coming up with a new topic, or let us know what you're interested in, or you continuously evolve with the audience needs. So there's a few ways. So yeah, ask for feedback. What topics would they like to hear is one of the questions that is really important. And then lastly, besides having the right structure, having the right ideas, finding the right people, often we strongly believe in the corporate voices. So find the people in your organization that have something to say. Don't rely on people outside of your organization. You want to make it as authentic and close to your organization as possible. So really give your company a voice by finding those corporate voices. And then in the end, like I said, the software or the tools that you need. So a microphone, ideally a USB microphone. I'm using this, an SM7. There's now an SM7 Plus. Sorry, not SM7. I'm sorry. It's an MV7, not an SM7. An MV7 or an MV6. They range between 120 to 250 years, but this is really like state of the art. It helps you to record in any kind of environment. It can be, it can be a studio or an office, but you can also be in a conference room. And especially this microphone is very versatile in that, and it is really gives you a great sounding voice in a non-studio environment, and that's why we always recommend it. Um, and that's why we started an exclusive partnership with Shure, because we think they're the ideal microphone for corporate podcasts. And you don't want to overdo it, but you want to still have high quality content, great sounding content. You want to make your team sound great, and then you need software. Some kind of recording tool to record the content that you do. You need some kind of editing tool, hosting, analytics, um, and that's why we build Hypecast. So all those, recording, editing, hosting, analytics, all those different features we combine into one tool, especially designed for corporates, so that people that have no previous experience in podcast production can use Hypecast and can use the studio to create great content. We have a video feature in it as well. And then in the end, you need a sound design, an intro, an outro, or jingles. And with Hypecast, you also get a free sound library with it. So you have everything in one tool that you can use. And then if you want to opt for a video podcast, of course, additionally to the microphone, you need a camera. For example, I'm working with the Sony EVZ10 4K camera. It's usually a photo camera, but we turn it into my webcam, or video recorded camera. We also use this camera, or multiple of these cameras, to record video podcasts in different settings. It's very versatile. Additionally, what is like, and that is something we had to learn as well. If you look for those kind of like DSLR cameras, like high-end cameras, it's very important to check what's the recording limit on them, because especially in Europe, there is, for a lot of cameras, there's a recording limit of 30 minutes on it. So you don't want to record a podcast, for example, with your leadership team, and then right in minute 29:58, something is saying something really, really valuable and smart, and then camera's out and you're missing that piece of content. So make sure that you check that out. But also, if you need recommendations from entry price to high end, we're happy to help. And then besides the camera and the microphone, like I said, you need some type of lights, soft boxes, LED lights to really make everybody look good, besides sounding good. And yeah, so that is everything around what you need to launch successfully, how to track engagement, and what kind of tools you use, examples. And now the floor is open for questions. So I'm happy to hear your question if there are any. Feel free to share that. Otherwise, if there's no questions, happy to give you a few questions that you can take home with you, and think about it. And maybe you want to reach out later on. And one of them is, what challenges are you currently facing with your non-desk communication, and what content would your team find really valuable in a podcast? And maybe you can take those questions back with you. And we're approaching Christmas, but maybe beginning of the year you can really reach out to your organization, to your non-desk workers, and figure that out, and talk to them. And you might be one of the people starting your corporate podcast in 2025. And if we're lucky, you're going to do that with us. We would be happy. Otherwise, thank you for joining. And thanks for participating in this webinar. We're gonna offer more of these webinars. We're gonna share the recording afterward for anybody that wasn't able to attend. Yeah, there's more upcoming dates. One is already live for the end of January, when it's based on thought leadership, establishing thought leadership inside and outside an organization with a corporate podcast. It's going to be super interesting as well. And then we're going to figure out more content and, of course, ask the community about it. So feel free to join in again. Otherwise, feel free to connect on LinkedIn if you want to. And besides that, I wish you all a great break, happy holidays, enjoy the time off if you have any, and then a great start into the next year. All the best for you, your teams, your company, to your family and friends. Stay in good health, and then happy to see you all somewhere and sometime in the webinars or in real life. Thank you so much, and I'm closing the stream now. Have a good evening. Thanks. Bye bye.